Hello, and welcome to the Community IT Innovators Technology Topics Podcast, where we discuss nonprofit technology, cybersecurity, tech project implementation, strategic planning, and nonprofit IT careers. Find us at communityit.com. Thank you for joining this Community IT Podcast Part 2. You can find Part 1 in your podcast feed if you subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts.
I want to welcome everyone to the Community IT Innovators webinar, Nonprofit IT, A Look Ahead. So my name is Carolyn Woodard. I'm the Outreach Director for Community IT, and I'll be the moderator today.
My name is Matthew Eshelman, and I'm the Chief Technology Officer here at Community IT.
My name is Noura Abuki. I'm a Senior Consultant at Community IT.
Hello, everybody. I'm Patrick Spray. Up until the end of 2022, I was the Business IT Manager and led our team of IT managers focused around the practice around client IT management, IT road mapping, and IT consulting. And then just recently, I was promoted to be the Director of Information Systems and Technology. So I'm also looking ahead and looking to plan for Community IT's internal IT for the next few years as well. So, I'm speaking about this, but I'm also learning about this as well.
How cutting edge are you? So we accept crypto donations, for example, option 1. Option 2, we use AI tools and are starting to use them this year as they become more and more, in the news. Option 3, we start using cybersecurity tools as soon as they come on the market. So we're very cybersecurity forward. 4 is we love open source platforms and custom apps. So we're building our own stuff. Option 4, we are on all the social media platforms you've never heard of, but your kids use. So we're very forward in terms of social. Or option 6 is not available, or we are Luddites and we admit it. So I'm firmly in that camp in terms of my own technology, and I'm happy to admit it. So Noura, would you mind reading the results?
So 50% of our respondents are Luddites. So you're not alone. And we do have 27% actually use cybersecurity tools. And they start using cybersecurity tools as soon as they are on the market. So they are early adopters. Then followed by 19%, we have 2 in that category. Some use AI tools or are starting to use them this year. And then some use open source platforms and custom apps. Then we move on to 12% that are on social media platforms you never heard of. And then lastly, there's 4% that actually accept crypto donations. So that's quite a revelation.
So good. Thank you so much for sharing that with us, everyone. All right, so now we're going to move on and talk a little bit more about some more specifics about IT. We're going to spend about 5 minutes on each of these topics, taking questions and talking about how IT and nonprofits now relate to these different topics. We have about 6 topics and 3 speakers. So I think I'm going to ask Matt if you would like to go first. I promised we would talk about some more cybersecurity issues. So we have 2 topics for you: crypto and blockchain, and cyber.
Great. And I'll try to be concise because I think there's lots of other great stuff here. So, I do think, cybersecurity continues to challenge organizations, due to the, ongoing rise in cybercrime and then the associated spike in cyber liability insurance. I know we're dealing with that as a company, having our renewal rate triple. Now, we'll talk a little bit more in detail about some cyber incidents as part of our incident report that we're currently working on, and that webinar will be in April. But I think I am able to say that, on the crypto side or the cybersecurity side, we are seeing the impact of tool adoption helping to reduce the overall number of incidents. And so I think that's something clear as we get more clients on more of the advanced, particularly email security tools, that really drops the number of things that are getting reported into us. And again, multi-factor authentication, that adoption has really been impactful in terms of reducing the amount of compromised accounts that we're seeing. However, we are seeing that, overall, wire fraud and kind of financially based crime is up, kind of, at least for our organizations, year over year. So I think, kind of on that cyber crime, cybersecurity side, things, there's many different elements to that discussion. But, kind of the big trends that we see are really cyber liability insurance and kind of the associated cyber crime really driving technology tool adoption as a way to help reduce costs and help protect the organization. And again, the implementation of more tools really is effective in terms of providing protection and reducing risk. I will say, so kind of talking a little bit about in the blockchain or cryptocurrency world of things, I think the sheen of that as a platform, I think, has really started to wear off, with the implosion of FTX, in general, cryptocurrency prices collapsing. It's clear that it's not a hedge against inflation. And so I think some of this the ideal of cryptocurrency really has worn off. And again, the economic impact or the consumption to generate it, I think, is really people are looking at that with a lot more critical eye. And for most organizations, I think that that we work with that represent kind of the small to mid-sized nonprofit space, the idea that you're going to build something on blockchain is just it's just not the right tool. You need a good database, you need an effective online engagement platform that can do donations, and that is a great solution, right? You're not going to gain anything by building that all on blockchain. I do think that some of the concepts and ideals of this decentralization are really appealing. I think especially as we see trends overall towards people, being in big corporate platforms, right? You're in Google Workspace, you're in Office 365. Like, that's the choice. We don't see organizations in kind of third party or open source or community developed solutions for email as much, that we're maybe starting to see a little bit more example of that, for organizations or maybe privacy first to use some of those solutions. But, those effective big platforms have really taken the vast majority of the marketplace, and that's driving a lot of the tech innovation and enabling, I think, tremendous efficiency and capacity, for organizations to just not have to worry about their tech stack and be able to focus on doing their job. So I think those are just a couple of insights that I would share as it relates to kind of the cybersecurity world, and then also, it's this kind of like crypto, ransomware, blockchain. It's all kind of tied in together. And unfortunately, that does seem to be the biggest use case is receiving funds so that you can decrypt your ransomware files. Yeah. So
we have a question that came in on the chat, which was to discuss hardware keys and passwordless login.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So I think that is a big trend that the big vendors are really pushing in terms of shifting away from passwords. So I think in 2016, Microsoft published an article that said, hey, you don't need to change your password every 90 days, right? But that was in 2016. And here I still see it on cyber liability insurance applications. Do you change your password every 90 days? And I think, yes, the market and the big vendors are going towards this kind of concept of passwordless login, using physical security keys or using your phone to sign in. And so I think that is a way that you can make good security easy to use. And so you don't have to think of a crazy complex pass. You don't have to change it. You're able to authenticate using tools that you have. And so I certainly am a big fan of that. That's a welcome trend.
I also wanted to touch on, because I think we had a question, one of the attendees, about password managers. And password managers is a way to manage passwords in the organization. An alternative and kind of a step up from that is single sign-on, where your staff would log into a service like Okta is a very popular one. And then by logging in there, they would be authenticated into the different applications. So instead of managing passwords for everywhere somebody has to sign in, they just sign in one place. And SSO is always going to be more secure because it's built to be secure. It's a single place to like monitor and manage the user's identities. Password managers can be a kind of a stopgap and a way to organize and to some degree share passwords more securely. But you still have all those different passwords and all those, each of those is a vulnerability as well.
Thank you. Yeah, that's a great observation. I wanted to turn a little bit to this central heart of creating community. We talked a little bit earlier about corporations and how you can be on, you can just be a Microsoft Office, but then, what if they discontinue a platform that you've been using or that your nonprofit is using to communicate with your volunteers or however it's working, and how that can impact the nonprofit sector. So I think, Nura, you had some thoughts on creating community and kind of the role of technology in that.
Yes, thank you, Carolyn. Certainly creating communities over the years, a lot of nonprofit organizations have leveraged on the big tech company solutions that are available to them. For instance, Amazon had a Smile donation program that a lot of nonprofit took advantage of, but then all of a sudden it disappeared. So you can equally talk about some of the services that Google actually offers on its platform that it unceremoniously just shuts down. The more you invest in building a community through some of these platforms, there is a potential that some platforms may actually go away. Changes that came into Twitter, you may have built workflows, processes, and outreach programs through Twitter, but Twitter, with the change of leadership, has brought in new approaches and ways to do things. So that might have impacted your nonprofit organization. So it begs the question, does a nonprofit then actually invest in building its own custom tool that allows it to build communities? Or should let's say communities actually look for tools that actually are reliable, that are sustainable over the long term? So these are some of the tough questions that we are seeing. I would even mention TikTok. TikTok is one popular tool platform that is available, and some nonprofit actually are using it. Maybe several of them are using it. It's just the trendiest platform of that time, gives you perhaps the most outreach to your potential donors or your potential customers. So it's quite interesting how nonprofit take advantage of the big corporations solutions for building communities. But there's that concern that it may not be sustainable over time, and nonprofits need to be forward thinking about what is the next tool that may be available that is sustainable, that they could take full advantage of.
Thank you so much, Nora. I feel like this is a good segue into something that Pat wanted to talk about, which is the kind of tension between corporate tools and building your own tools. So like you were saying, like, does your community find the tool that fits how your community works, or do you adapt to the tool that you have? So Pat, did you want to talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah. I think, a couple decades ago, if you wanted a solution, if you wanted like a CRM, it was kind of a toss-up between hiring a developer or trying to find an off-the-shelf solution, customize it. And then these off-the-shelf solutions, these kind of corporate solutions just became specialized, like so different industries, would have different CRMs, and then they also just became better and better and more customizable, and you could kind of integrate them with other solutions. And then, especially with just everybody kind of spreading out, with COVID, it's just become very easy within the past few years to kind of build out your own solutions. Our recommendation has for a long time been to get a standard solution, these typically have like kind of the best practices built in. They tend to be, industry standard. But now you have nonprofits where you'll have like a team of people who are kind of siloed doing their own thing and trying to get their work done. And so they reach out and do their own research and, find kind of their own solution or kind of cobble something together using, maybe some of these like these no code or these low code solutions and APIs to integrate things. Power Automate is a great example of something where you can kind of create these custom workflows to help you do your work. But then you're kind of left with this kind of cobbled together solution that you've got maybe one person who's set it up and knows everything that's going on, and they are responsible for supporting it. And if they leave the organization, and who knows what's going to happen if it breaks or if it's going to keep working. And so that's something you kind of want to make sure that you're preparing for. I don't think there's necessarily a wrong answer when it comes to kind of doing the DIY or getting the off the shelf solution. I think some of it can depend on what you need or what you want. And to some degree, like there's also the hybrid option where you get kind of an off-the-shelf solution and then you get a developer who can help you customize it, kind of what Salesforce is based around. And it'll be interesting also to see, and I think we'll talk about this more as well, like what these kind of off-the-shelf solutions, like how they integrate kind of automation and AI and to help customize the solution as well.
Thank you so much. I think this kind of leads into talking about like the supply chain issues. So if you are using a corporate, platform, you're kind of dependent on them. And if you're using IT, you're dependent on the supply chain. So can you talk a little bit about what you see happening with supply chain issues in the future?
Yeah. So we we serve a lot of different clients, and we want our clients to use good, solid IT hardware, and so we try to encourage them to get to buy just from a few vendors that we're familiar with and that we know provide really good stuff. But recently one of the vendors we like to use for networking equipment, Cisco Meraki, like you can't get their firewalls or their access points right now because they're going through supply chain disruptions that are they've been hit with now and again since COVID 2019, since the pandemic. Speaking of COVID is still a factor. China only just loosened their COVID policies back in December. It is still around. And in addition to that, like we also, like, this just brings to mind that we don't really know what's coming next when it comes to like the great next disaster. It could be a new virus, environmental catastrophe, political shocks. We're just entering the 2024 election cycle here in the U.S., and we've already got pundits who are predicting civil unrest. In addition to that, during COVID, a lot of organizations switched to going 100% remote, and then after the pandemic ended, they either stayed remote or they went hybrid. One thing to think about is how are you responding to that, in the sense of like, how are you updating your policies and your procedures? One non-IT thing to think about also is, how are you maintaining your organization's culture if you're hiring new staff who are out of the area and who maybe you've been working with for months and have never met face to face? How do you keep that strong culture at your organization? Because a lot of our clients have really great cultures, which is one of the draws that brings people to work there.
That's great. I want to make sure that we've got a couple of more questions that came in. And I know, Nura, you're like ready to talk about AI anytime we ask you those questions.
Yeah, quickly though, artificial intelligence has been trending for the past few years, and we've seen at the nonprofit sector AI-driven fundraising solutions that integrate with existing CRM, whether it's Salesforce or whichever CRM you use. AI can actually do some machine learning of your existing CRM data and churn out some good insights to help you with your email campaigns. In the past 3 months, though, we have seen an evolution of AI in terms of having conversation with an AI, asking questions and getting responses. In one solution from OpenAI called ChatGPT has been quite impressive, even though we know that it's still in its primitive stage. It has shown some great potential. I've heard stories of students actually doing their homeworks using ChatGPT. Some people writing their resignation letters with ChatGPT, composing the entire letter. Some sending out marketing emails. ChatGPT has its limitation. It only has data up until 2001. Microsoft blew our minds just a few weeks ago with the integration of ChatGPT in the search solution Bing, and that actually has more real time or real life interaction. So you can simply, if you're searching for anything, just type a question and it presents an answer for you in a concise format, unlike the way we've traditionally used chat. So AI is showing growing potential in actually being a disruptor over the years, and even up until now, we are seeing that it may actually change the way we do our research using search engines. But I would be wary about the ethical use of AI, as it's going to be part of our lives and part of the way we work. Maybe some of you that have Office 365 already have seen some AI insights to the way you do your work and so on. So more to come on AI. I think we would have more sessions about the evolution of AI, but it's definitely here to stay.
I wanted to go quickly to our learning objectives for today, which were to understand cutting edge and future IT trends for nonprofits. And maybe I should have reworded that to be aware of, because we've really scratched just the very tip of the surface. And so I think it's hard to, we had several questions that come in. We're like, well, it's hard to understand how a lot of these issues are going to impact me personally, but also my organization going forward. So I would just say, reach out to your trusted IT, provider. There's a big community of people online as well. And, just stay as current as you can, which was our second learning objective, was to why it's important to keep up with tech trends. Even if you're not necessarily a techie person, your organization might not be the most techie organization, but all of these issues, these wide ranging issues, have such an impact on how we work and how our organizations work and what we're able to do to achieve our missions. And then I think we did really well in the last objective of having a wide discussions of nonprofits of the future. You can always contact us and get in touch with us about any of the topics that you heard today. There were a couple of questions that we didn't get to answer. One great one about creating situations where organizations can share solutions with other communities. So if you found a tool that really works, or maybe a suite of tools that is helping you do what you want to do, and being better able to share that with other nonprofits. So I think that's a great question. We didn't quite have time to answer today. I'm going to let everyone go, but we will include some of our thoughts on these questions in the transcript. So look back for that. And I just really appreciate your time today. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Pat. And thank you, Nora, for sharing these forward-looking ideas with us. And as you said, Nora, I think you've blown my mind. I think we might have blown some other people's minds, but hopefully we were able to give you some good information and some ideas on what you need to look at in terms of IT and nonprofits. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you for joining this Community IT Podcast Part 2. You can find Part 1 in your podcast feed if you subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. Community IT does these free webinars and podcasts for our community, and we love sharing our knowledge and experience. If you have more questions or are having trouble with your IT at your nonprofit, please get in touch with us on our website, www.communityit.com, so we can start a conversation or schedule an assessment. Downloading any of our free resources there will get you signed up for our webinar reminders, and you can attend our next webinar in real time and ask our experts your own questions. If you love podcasts, please subscribe and leave us a rating to help others find this leadership resource for nonprofits.